And next, I would like to welcome to the stage Michael Green, the CEO of Social Progress Imperative. He's an economist by training, also an author, an educator, and a rewarded TED Talk speaker. So welcome, Michael. And I don't know if he has any stunts planned, but I will get out of the way just in case.
Well, I must say, I was a bit concerned when the agenda came out and I discovered I had the graveyard session after lunch. But then I turned up and I discovered that I'd been completely upstaged by that fantastic performance, and now I'm only going to be dull and disappointing by comparison. But I will do my best. I've got good news for you, which is that you might think I've come to talk to you about data. I haven't. I've come to talk to you about a very, very important subject, and that subject is you. This is all about you. And the first thing I want to say to you is congratulations. We've only been with you on part of this journey, but it's a real privilege to be here for this final seminar, to see the wonderful video earlier of all the project's achievements. And I just want to say as an outsider, having come to a couple of your meetings, just to be here with you, seeing what a team you are, it shows the impact of the project in bringing everyone together into this wonderful team. So thank you, and it's been a great pleasure working with you all, and I think that's a real fruit of the project. I think I've been to Luleå, I've been to Herkenäs, and now I've been in Rovaniemi, so I've been to the 3 countries, so I think I've got 3 stamps. I must get a badge or something, so that's very good. So congratulations on that. Now, as Nina very well explained, this was your idea to come up with some tool because there was a gap that you wanted to fill. So I just wanted to start by just quickly highlighting the terms of reference that you gave us. Yeah, this was your idea. You gave us an assignment to come and solve a set of problems for you. And so what we brought to the party, Social Progress Imperative, is we're a non-profit. We specialize in building data tools. We're good at building data tools. That's our expertise. We've done some work in tourism in the past. But the idea, the conception of this came from you. And so what we did was we built a beta tool, and then we brought that to the meeting in Herkenäs last year. Who was in Herkenäs last year? Great. And I want to say thank you to all of you, because it was an incredibly important part of the journey in building what is now, which was then a tool with no name, and is now called the very exciting AETC Value of Tourism tool. It does what it says on the tin. But the Herkenäs meeting was very important for us for a couple of reasons. One was because it helped us to understand the kind of data you were looking for, the data was available, etc., and the issues that were confronting you. But it also really helped understand the real motivation and drive behind this tool. I heard people talking about public policy. There are other sectors of the economy that have got great resources that can lobby for their interests with government. The tourism sector that maybe doesn't have the same evidence or the same influence, and that's detrimental to our industry, I heard you say. I heard people saying, exactly as Nina said, we could describe some of the benefits of tourism, but lots of the fringe benefits we can't really measure and capture. I remember the mayor of Herkenäs actually talking about how he'd taken his family for a Chinese meal the night before because there were tourists visiting the town that gave the city the diversity of restaurants. I heard people talking about train lines, petrol stations that existed because of tourism. That was part of the spin-out benefit. But those were sometimes hard and intangible to capture. I heard people saying, we've got initiatives like Care for the Arctic, we're committed to sustainability, but we want to know how we're progressing over time. People wanted a tool that would help them to understand their impact, how well the strategies were working. I also heard people say, well, all right, we care about sustainability, but not everyone else in our sector does. We need to be able to advocate for everyone in the sector to be following sustainable practices, and we need a tool to be able to show that what we do makes a difference, whereas perhaps what some other people do doesn't make a difference. So we heard a lot of reasons why this tool was important. There was a lot riding on this. And what really came out of that conversation was actually, it wasn't about building one index. It was actually about creating two different indexes as parts of one tool. So the first part is we need a measure of tourism intensity. So what activity is going on in the tourism sector? So we get a sense whether tourism is increasing, decreasing, whether tourism is higher in one area than another area. But tourism intensity is not impact. That's just activity. It's an input. So on the other side, we need to have a measure of community impact, and that's the outcome measure. So by separating out the input measure and the outcome measure, we can then look at the two, how the two relate to each other, which I think is very important for benchmarking and measuring trends over time. So, value for money for you. You asked for one tool, you got two. Two for the price of one. Isn't that good value? So that was what we came out from Hercules with, the idea of two separate indices. I'm not going to talk in great deal about how these tools work today. I think there are other opportunities to do so. But let me just very quickly show you how it works. So first of all, the Tourism Intensity Index, that's looking at answering this question is, how significant is the tourism sector in your geography, country, county, municipality? And then we look at the economic impacts and then other measures of activity. So these together are added up to produce a measure of tourism activity. That's our input measure. Then on the other side of the equation, we have the outcome measure. And we spent quite a lot of time in Hercules talking about this, and I think we restructured the framework quite a lot on the back of that. So the outcome measures we're looking at are, what's the impact of tourism on well-being? What's the impact of tourism on the economy? What's the impact on infrastructure and services? What's the impact on the environment and resilience? And then finally on governance and inclusion. So these are the 5 broad buckets that make up the community impact measure. And then for each of those, just with the intensity index, we then go out and pick up data. Again, I won't go through this in detail. We've worked a lot with the executive team and other stakeholders to sort of sift through and find the indicators to measure each of these. But for each of these buckets, which we call dimensions, multiple indicators coming from different data sources as well as far as possible to give us a robust measure. There's infrastructure and services, environment, and governance and inclusion. So all this information is available to you to look at in great detail. So we can then add all those things up to create these two measures. We agreed at the outset that we were going to look at not every region. This was a pilot project to test and build this tool. So what we were looking at was at 3 levels: the national level, the county level, and the municipal level. So we picked 1 county, 1 municipality in every country as the pilot regions, so to test whether we could gather the data and generate meaningful results for each of those. So that's what we were gathering the data for. So it's only a pilot at this stage, and obviously a tool like this, it's much more valuable when it's been scaled out to more geographies. But here's these are the pilot regions. And what that means is that, for example, we can take each of the countries, the counties and municipalities, and see how they score on any of the aspects of the index together. We can see how they compare on tourism intensity, and then how they score on aggregate community impact. Or we can break it down to see how they compare on any of the 5 dimensions of the community impact index. So you can do that kind of comparison of those broad levels of the index and the dimensions of the index. You can also, for any individual geography, have a look at the indicator level as well. Have a look at comparison. So we're in Finland, so I thought I'd pull up the Finland data. We can then look at the indicator level in great detail about how each of those geographies compare against one another. In showing you this, I just want to highlight something that we've done. Is what we've brought to this is, of course, there's lots of different data from different data sources. So we've been adding up apples, oranges, cabbages, cauliflowers, even a little bit of reindeer as well, I'm sure. And what we've done, my team has done through their statistical capacity, is found a way of combining those in a way that those numbers can be added up together and come up with meaningful comparative scores. So you will see differences, the differences reflected. And some of those will be about natural geographic differences. You will have more tourism stays in a tourism-intense geography than for the national average, etc. So, but this gives you that comparative data for each of those geographical levels. And what we also did was we took 2 data points. So we took a data set from 2019 to 2021, and another data set from 2022 to 2024, to demonstrate that you can then also track change over time. Being absolutely honest, this is a slightly rubbish comparison to make over time because it's got COVID right in the middle of it. There's nothing we can do about that. So trying to track the trends between these 2 observations that are essentially during COVID and post-COVID is very difficult. But the principle is right, that you can then look at how each of these geographies has changed over time. So it's not just the static score or the score compared to its peers. You can also look at that change over time aspect, which I think if you look at impact measurement is going to be incredibly important. So the tool is there, it's been built, and we have a website for it for you to go and explore. Nina, I think that'll be shared with everyone to go and explore. And I think we also have an event on the 7th of May in which we can talk in more detail about explaining the tool, etc. But as I said, this is about you. You started this. This was your idea. You said you wanted something. We've worked with you to create the tool, and now we're handing that tool to you. So the future of the tool is really in your hands. My father was a carpenter, and one of the things he always taught me was let the tool do the work. You have to learn to use the tool so the tool can do the work. What we've built for you is a tool that works. But if this community wants to get value out of the tool, it's got to take ownership of it, and it's got to learn to use it, and it's got to scale it. As I said, we've got 6 observations, 3 countries, no, 9 observations, 3 countries, 3 levels, country, county, municipal. The power of this tool will really come by scaling it. Now, the obvious way of scaling it is to do it for all the 3 countries, all counties and municipalities. We've built the index to be comparable in that way, using exclusively data that is available in all the countries. This was something we debated a bit in Hercules, was that there's different countries have got different data environments. There are some great data sets in one country that aren't available in other data sets. We've built this using exclusively data that's available for all the countries, all the counties, all the municipalities. So it can be scaled in that way. It can also be taken in a different direction. It could be customized for a country or for a municipality. You can take it in that direction in a more customized way. But to do, what requires though is an investment into that tool to get the data into it so you can get the insight out of it. And I think that's then a question for this community is how valuable is that insight? You know, how can you use this for the policy advocacy? How can you use it for your impact measurement, your reporting out to investors, the communities, etc.? How valuable is it for your strategy building? That ultimately is down to you. But I think you've got amazing things that you're doing here. I think this is definitely something that is far advanced from anything we have seen in this sector. I think it's an advance of things done in many other sectors, and you've got a real opportunity here for real global leadership on it. A few weeks ago, I was visiting Argentina, and there was a conversation about how they were smaller, more marginal, more remote communities in places like the Andes, and how you could spread development to those communities. And I talked about you. I talked about in the Arctic and how communities that in some ways should be very remote and deprived have been, development has come, development has happened, tourism has been a key driver of that. And that countries like Argentina and other places that are trying to develop really need to be looking to places like the Arctic here where there's real leadership and ideas. So I'm going to stop there. The tool is yours. We are doing another session on the 7th of May to talk through it and discuss further with you and explain the tool further. But how the tool is used, we entrust to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Would I take
Michael,
questions
and
now?
please don't leave yet.
Okay.
First of all, I invite the audience, if you have questions or comments to Michael, you can also consider them for a while because, well, we've been in a lot of discussion during this work, and I remember at some point you said that, well, Nina, everybody else wants to do that too, but it's not that easy. But how is it? Is the rest of the world struggling with the same challenge?
Absolutely. People are still, there's a lot of data out there, yeah? But data is inert. Data isn't doing anything unless it's put together into frameworks and combined, so it can be then turned into stories. And it's stories that change the world. And I think that's what we've tried to do with this tool, is take the data that all exists already, but bring data from different sources. I mean, we're combining data from public statistics together with data from TripAdvisor, data from Meta, put that all together in a way that we can then tell a story about a place. We can tell a story about a place's trajectory and direction. And I think that genuinely is novel and world-leading.
Yeah, and that's also a discussion that we have had very much, that, okay, where can we find the data? So what do you actually think, which is the most difficult part? Finding the data or communicating the results?
I think if you've got the data together, the stories come out. And I think you'll find the findings come out. At the moment, I haven't told you a story about what the data says, because it's only that limited data set. But I think once you can say, if we look across every municipality in Finland, and we can see how the tourism-intense destinations compare to the less tourism-intense, how they benchmark against each other, you've then got a whole world of insight coming out of that and learning who's doing particularly well, who's got a weakness. And that can be in the aggregate scores, that could be in any one of those dimensions. You've then got this whole avenue for learning and for sharing experience. It almost sets an agenda for learning between different municipalities. That could be within countries, within counties, across countries as well.
Yes, and well, like you said in your speech, comparing apples and reindeer and whatnot with each other. So that's what it is. But we have tried to find the best possible data that could somehow describe those different areas of value of tourism and the effects of tourism. So of course, the limitations are there, that what statistics are available. What can we find in all our 3 countries and on all these levels and so on. So for sure, somebody could come up with, oh, why didn't you include this measurement there? Well, it might be that none of us came to think of it, but it might be that we tried, but there wasn't a statistic to use for it. So that might be the reason. Any thoughts? Have they grown during this little moment in the audience? Do you think this could be valuable for you to use? We have a comment or question here.
Thanks. Mats from Visit Lyngenfjord in Norway. And actually, just a short comment, or actually ask also a question to Michael. And that lately have been a lot of discussions regarding the value generation, and that it seems that even long-term destinations, that they are losing the value. It doesn't stay local. It's more and more pouring out to bigger companies, and due to the fact that there were not enough investors, local investors. So the value creation happens in one place, but the value this transported to another place, and that is one of the issues that we have to that how can generate local value and not general value that is transported to other places.
I mean, just to say, I mean, what this tool can do is it locates down to place. So if you can think about tourism in place in terms of municipality, it allows you to then have those conversations about transformations in the industry and the impact on place. So if you did see a transformation in the nature of tourism in a particular location, this municipality, there's in a way to have that conversation about, well, this might be where the business is going, but this is where the community impact is. There's a case to think about this differently. I mean, certainly I think what I talked a couple of years ago about, you know, how we've worked in Costa Rica, the Ministry of Tourism has used not quite the same tool, but a different tool to understand about what kinds of tourism they want to develop. And just the most commercial tourism isn't necessarily the one that's best for the country. So a data tool that's got place, that's got granularity like this, can allow some of those conversations to happen about how the industry evolves.
Yeah, and a very good point from Lyngenfjord there about, like, where is the ownership, where does the revenue go from the business that is done in our locations. There we have first comment and second one here. Oh, third one there. Great. Well, let's do it easy logistically. Let's give it to Nikki first.
Hi everybody, I don't know if you can hear me. Nikki Pagels from the Nordic Tourism Collective. First of all, I think this is amazing. So I work with data on a day-to-day basis myself, and just the fact that a tool like this exists is kind of the first threshold. The second threshold is obviously the usage of it and getting those stories out, which, I mean, it's an easy thing. It's like Julia said, just do it. What I'm curious about is the ownership of updating the data and how easy it is to actually get that data into the system for future years so that it really has an impact over time. So is that something that's been discussed? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, that is actually something I could respond to, and that is something that we as partners, of course, have responsibility for carrying forward the results of the projects. And yes, we are working on the tool. I mean, the work is still ongoing, but we will have a way of using it, kind of like the back office of it. So that will be done, yes, but it's not ready and published yet. But yes, definitely, I believe, hopefully all of our partners will apply it on a larger area in the future. Then I think there in the middle was a comment or question.
I think it was a very similar question. How is the information going to go into the tool in the future and how we use it? So basically the same.
The aim, yes, definitely to do that, but we will inform you in more detail when the partners work further on that. And then I think there was a comment or question, or maybe it was answered already. Yeah? Any?
I just have one last remark regarding what's going to happen with the tool next. And I think I might go some program points ahead here, but at least for Sweden, we have already written this tool into our new project application, that this is something that we want to develop and we want to work with and we want to apply it on a broader level. So this is something that we will work on during the upcoming 3 years, if we get funded by the ERF application. But at least in Sweden, we have already starting to make plans for this, because we see this as a really, really important tool for the future, and especially when it comes to how will the tourism in our region develop. What can we see and what can we learn? And what can we also, because I think that also you can see here is, you can learn from the history and make sort of predictions. This is what will happen in the future if we do this or that, or if we don't do this or that. So I see this as a really, really great value.
Definitely, and whether or not that specific application is successful, we hope it is. But yes, of course, partners will want to work further on these results.
No, just say, I mean, there is a very basic database that drives a Tableau visualization as the tool. So there's no complex proprietary stuff that we've got hiding there. So it has been built so it's very updatable. All the data sources, there's a methodology document you'll be sharing as well. All the data sources are there. So it's a very simple process of pulling in the data from more geographies, putting it through the spreadsheet to do the calculations, to then split out the visualizations. So it's built to be very easy to follow on with.
Definitely, and as it is a pilot, these were the pilot destinations. Piloting usually means that we will do something more and further in the future, but that is the first step where we kind of like do the testing. And as Michael mentioned, on May 7th, we will have a webinar to the project participants. You have the invitation in Basecamp, where Michael and his crew will go through this tool in more detail. And then actually, a little bit later in May, we will go through the same content with the pilot destinations, also stakeholders who are not in the project, so that they know what have been calculated for their part and how they can use it in the future. So those are some of the next steps that will be taken within a few weeks from now. Any further questions or comments to Michael? Maybe I could just ask, are the other areas around the world already jealous?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think...
That was also one of the goals.
But this is the point. You are countries that lead the world in this kind of work. And that's why it's important, because if you lead, others will follow. So we're very excited and really hope this work continues and fulfills its potential, because it does have a lot of spillover application to other countries. And just to say finally, thank you all. I mean, it's been a great pleasure working with you all. I mean, both in workshops and on calls, etc. It's been a fantastic partnership. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Michael. Let's give him a warm round of applause.